Um, the way these sessions are going to work is we're going to go ahead and record them. We'll post them online for those people who want to go back and view them. The presentation will also be posted online so that you can click on it and download it. And if I think of anything else, we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, the last thing is everybody's obviously muted because if we open the mics, then it just becomes a really challenging situation. But if you have a question, Mr. Munda is monitoring the chat. So you just have to type it into the chat. Mr. Munda keeps track of all the questions. And then at the end, he shoots the questions off to me and then I answer them. And the last couple of times that we've done it this way, it seems to work pretty efficiently. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so the back to school schedule. So all of our teachers have been kind enough to sort of do some pro bono work for us, and they are putting together a presentation. So some of you already know, for example, at the kindergarten, are currently hosting their orientation on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And those orientations for them are from 9 to 10 in the morning. Now, our first grade is also going to be offering an orientation on August 13th on Thursday from 9 to 10. Some teachers will be doing it from 10 to 11. And you should have gotten a letter from us. And in that letter was our welcome back. And Cecilia let you know who your teacher was going to be. So you should have already seen like, oh, okay, I have Miss Biamenin. So you would know that, okay, she's going to host her back to school orientation on Thursday, August 13th from 9 to 11. And then you should be receiving an email from her shortly or from the school letting you know what the Zoom information is going to be, okay? And as you guys can see, all of the different other grade levels and when they're going to have their meetings. I did want to make a note just in case some of you hear that there's supposed to be an orientation also on August 19th per the district. So if you hear that, you're going to be like, oh, we're going to have another meeting with our teachers. No, actually, our deal with our teachers was that instead of doing the scheduled one that the district was going to provide on Wednesday, August 19th at 1 p.m., they would do the sessions that were currently outlined in this slide so that they can meet your children and they can let them know a little bit about what's going to be happening. So what will they talk about? So they'll introduce you to the daily schedule, a little bit about themselves. One of the really important things, and I'll talk about this a little bit more later on, is Schoology Access, because that is going to be the platform that the entire school district must use in order to engage the students in the synchronous learning. Now, it doesn't mean that the teachers won't have other platforms that they utilize, which is on the agenda. They might be using Zoom, and they might be using Seesaw and Padlet, but everybody's synchronous instruction must start utilizing Schoology. And so they'll talk to you a little bit about that during their sessions. They'll also go over like norms on how the children are to behave while they're online. We looked at some of the survey and we saw a lot of people talking a little bit about how, you know, their kids didn't feel like they were in school. So this year we're going to try to refine that piece so that our students feel like they're in school. Like, you know, hey, you should be at a table, you should be sitting up, you know, you should be dressed and not in your PJs, even though you're at home. We understand, but we want you to really show us that, you know, you're essentially like at school, even though you're going to be operating from home. Additionally, the teachers are going to go over assignments. Again, we're going to try to meet people where they are. There will be sort of like a must do, can do. And the reason for this is that when we were going over the survey, what we saw a lot of was some parents said, my kid needed more work. And then some parents said, look, my kid doesn't need to be sitting in front of the computer that long. I would prefer that he have less work and then just be able to show mastery. And so what we're going to try to do with our teachers is try to offer that type of structure so that parents can see what are those must-do activities that the students need to submit for grades, and then what additional enrichment activities they can potentially do just to continue to practice or refine, or, you know, in some cases, just keep them busy while you are trying to work. So for example, right now I sent my kids upstairs and I said, you guys take care of yourselves because Dad's going to be working for a little bit. And so that would be a good time to give them like those other assignments that might just keep them busy for a little bit of time. This year, another change they're going to be going over with you is attendance. Attendance will be taken, so students must participate in the distance learning program. Unlike last year, where it was a little bit more like, oh, well, if they don't participate, your grades won't go down. This year, students must participate at some level. As I mentioned earlier, the teachers might use additional platforms or go over what platforms that specific grade level is going to utilize. They're going to go over their meeting schedule for the first couple of days. And they're going to go over the overview for the first 2 weeks. And the first 2 weeks, what we're encouraging as a school is that there be a lot of social emotional work that's done. In the past, we didn't have to worry about, well, we didn't do as much because we felt like the kids had already sort of created some type of rapport with the entire classroom. But since we're starting the year in distance learning, then there's going to be some time that's going to need to be dedicated to teachers building a community so the kids still feel connected, even if they're not always going to be, even though they're not going to be physically seeing each other. So we're encouraging the teachers to spend at least 2 weeks, where kids are bringing items to the Zoom sessions and sharing them, and they're learning about each other, they're learning about their classmates. Just really trying to build some kind of like a connection between the different individuals. And so it should take about 2 weeks. So if you don't see the teachers really jumping right into like math lessons and history lessons and science lessons or English lessons, know that it's something that we've planned out and want to make sure that our kids have sort of a soft launch into the school year. Additionally, we figured instead of giving them some challenging sort of academic work and then at the same time learning Schoology, we figured, you know what, it makes more sense for them to sort of be exploring Schoology while they're doing some fairly, innocuous things that are easier for them to sort of talk about with, like, it might be where they bring an item that's important to them and then they share it with the group and then maybe make a couple comments through the Schoology platform. So that's the thinking right now. Your teachers will go into a lot more detail about that. And then the teachers will just tell you what materials are needed for the class, okay? Now, speaking of materials, we want to invite you to come and pick up materials at the school. Now, this material pickup will be structured fairly similar to what we had last year when students were picking up the materials that were left in the classes. And the way this will look is that people will enter the school through the Echo Park gate over by where the cafeteria is, and we're on the main yard. So you'll enter through the main yard, you'll walk around, we'll have cones and signs for you to see so that everybody maintains that the 6 feet distance between each other. You obviously must be wearing a mask when you come. You should probably be wearing gloves as well. Just because we want to make sure that everybody is being as safe as possible. But the school has prepared, and the teachers and Cecilia and the front office, they prepared like goodie bags that you can take home. And this will have from markers, crayons, scissors, sharpeners, pencils, pens, and a series of other things that the students need. It'll even have like a little plastic sheet with a white piece and some whiteboard markers so the kids can do their math. So we're trying to provide the kids at least with like a starter kit to get the year to start the year off with some materials so that they're not scoundering around their house trying to find things to color with or till they can do some of their math work. Aside from that, they will also be able to pick up their iPads on the day that they come to pick up their materials. And during that time, we'll be able to give you your email address, your new password, and that way you can go ahead and start utilizing the iPads. We should have enough for everybody, but if you have a device at home and you don't need one, then please, don't check one out. It would just be another thing for you to sort of monitor at home. And as you can see, kindergarten is going to have 3 days of picking up materials. Or maybe not. Does Ms. Trevino want to say something about that?
Just want to, because it says here 9 to 12 will be pickup, but we'll be doing our Zoom orientation from 9 to 10. So our pickup is actually 10 to 12 p.m.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. So 10 to 12. And then on Thursday, we will have second grade and the 2-3 combo from 9 to 12. And then again, Friday will be first and third grade, and then on Monday will be fourth and fifth grade. It's really important that you try to pick up your materials on before the school year starts. because um, because their classes and they'll have to watch videos for the districts starting on Tuesday. So we want to make sure that everybody has a device before the 18th on that Tuesday, because they will start classes. Okay. If you need something special, like you can't make it and there's just no way around it, you know, please just call the main office, and then what will happen is Miss Cecilia or Terry will figure out an additional time. But again, if we would really appreciate it if everybody was able to attend the 9 to 12 pickup times, or 10 to 12 in the case of kindergarten. All right, so that the first week of school is going to be interesting, as I just sort of mentioned. Monday, August 17th, obviously is going to be a pupil-free day. The teachers are going to be doing professional development, and we will have some of our students still picking up some materials. On Thursday, the district has created these student-led trainings. And what that means is that it's asynchronous, which means that they're going to put some stuff online and students are going to be able to preview it on their own. And it's just going to walk them through sort of like how to be successful in a distance learning classroom structure. And they'll be doing that, and they'll be able to do it at different times. We're hoping that they'll do it in the morning, but if they have their devices, they'll be able to go on the LAUSD website, and then they'll be able to preview those trainings. And we will provide you some additional information as soon as the district provides it to us. From what I understood from my meeting today, is that they are finalizing those trainings. And as soon as they have the information on where it's going to be posted on the website, then we'll be able to facilitate that to our families. So anticipate getting some emails or some phone calls letting you know where you can access those lessons, online lessons on the first 2 days of school. Then your formal first day of school will start on August 20th with the teacher, and that will start at 9 o'clock. The district has outlined that all of its classes pretty much start at 9 o'clock. And so that's pretty much what our teachers are sticking to. And one last little bit on the schedule, just so that you kind of have a sense. You know, kindergarten, we're looking to be online for about 180 minutes a day, where they're having some interaction with the teachers. And then we have our second to third grade. They will have 230 minutes. And then our our fourth and fifth grade, they'll have about 240 minutes a day. So you should see a significant increase in time and interaction with the teachers from what you saw the previous year, where the teachers had maybe like an hour, maybe in some cases like 45 minutes a day. So you should see a significant increase there. Flexibility. Now, here's where it gets a little bit interesting. As a school, and we've talked about this with the teachers, is that we're committed to meeting the parents' needs. So as I mentioned earlier with the must do, can do, we want to try to figure out, you know, because this is not the normal structure, we want to differentiate it as much as possible. So your job is to really communicate with us. What's working, what's not working, and then we're going to try to figure out how to adapt. If you want to be online more, you know, that's something to communicate to your teachers so that they can create those structures and have them participate in smaller group structures so they can get that additional time. If you need them to be offline more and working more independently because you feel like those small group structures are stifling or they don't move as fast as a child would like, then let the teacher know and they can adapt and try to provide that student more flexibility. Now, if you're like, you know what, I just don't know if I want my kid attending these Zoom sessions, but I don't want to leave the school and I don't want to lose my spot, then there's independent study. I put the link here so you can jot it down and then go to the LAUSD website. You can look at it. We're committed to working with our families. I have some people who are looking to move abroad for during this COVID situation. And we have been trying to find some really creative ways to sort of like meet the needs of our different families. So again, just reach out to me, send me an email, say, hey, Mr. Garza, here's what I would like. And then we can start looking at some different ideas of how we can keep your children engaged in the learning process at Elysian Heights, but still provide you some of that flexibility that you might be looking for. And that's a commitment that I'm making to everybody, so that we keep all of our families happy with the work that we're doing. But at the same time, understanding, as I said in the opening letter, obviously we cannot recreate what happens in the classroom, but I think we can put something together that's still really meaningful for the students. Communication. The district is letting us know that we're going to be sending out, monthly newsletters, giving you guys updates. I'll be highlighting things that the students are doing in the classroom, talking about things that are going on at the school, talking a little bit about, even some things that are going on at a state and national level in terms of the current health crisis. We'll also be sending out weekly phone messages, and we'll continue to host the monthly Zooming with the principal, which we'll schedule those dates, set up the Zoom, and then we'll post them online. And then we're going to be doing weekly assemblies on Mondays. There'll be a pre-recorded message from myself for the students, and we'll shoot that out to the teachers, and then they can play it before they start their classes. And so that'll be some of the ways that we're going to try to keep in touch with our families and just keep putting information out there so that you guys can stay informed. And if at any point you feel like there's some missing information, again, just shoot me an email, and then I will try to highlight that in the next communication that comes out. There are some logistical changes with this distance learning program from what we had in the spring. At the forefront of this, like as I mentioned earlier, grades. In the past, during the spring, the district and the state had said that a child could not get a grade lower than what they were already achieving before they went on distance learning. And now they're telling us like, okay, now we're back to like a normal structure, and the students must participate, they must turn in their work, and that is going to be how they're going to get their grade and then matriculate grade levels. So grades will matter. And I think part of the reason behind this is because the district wanted families and students to understand that like there's accountability to this year. And then speaking of accountability, we go into attendance. And those pieces sort of go hand in hand as students are participating in their classes. Then the teachers will be monitoring that and taking attendance, and it will be registered. And again, as we talk about accountability, Schoology is that platform that we're going to be using, and there's a reason for that. And that is because a district will actually be able to track when our teachers, when our students are logging into the system, and it's another way that the district's going to see and hold everybody accountable to the work. I guess what you're probably hearing from what I'm saying is that there's accountability. Last time around, it was really flexible. There was a lot of wiggle room. And because we were thrusted into it, we lost a lot of folks in the transition. And now the district has learned from it. And now they're putting in some structures to ensure that, we're gonna make sure that we don't lose anybody and that we are really meeting the needs of our stakeholders, okay? Instructionally, what you're gonna see is a combination of learning for the students. There's synchronous and asynchronous work. And what that basically means is this: when the teacher is right in front, like for example, how I am right now, and I'm talking to you guys and I'm sharing a screen with you and we're learning, this would be considered synchronous work. If I then uploaded some things onto our website and I said, go ahead and go online and read this, and then when we get back together, we will have a discussion around it, that would be like the asynchronous work, right? So it's when the teacher assigns, a student to some reading or watching a video or taking notes on something or working on a project. Those are the asynchronous times when the students are technically still in class instruction. They're just working independent from the teacher, and the teacher isn't supervising them immediately through like a Zoom structure. Okay. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, we want to make sure that the social emotional needs of our students are being met. So there'll be a lot more time invested into that. It's not something that at Elysian just sort of came up on its own. It's something that even the district has noticed. So the district and the school right now are on the same page, and we definitely recognize that these are not normal times, and we definitely need to do some work around supporting our students so that they can sort of move through these difficult times in history. Now, aside from doing that, obviously there's going to be a lot more feedback as you hear me talking about the teachers being online more. So you should see some actionable feedback where the kids can get information. There'll be a lot of like small group work where the students are told to work on something independently, and then they can go off and work on their own. But again, there's that component where the teachers will be giving kids feedback. There'll be peer-to-peer learning. So in some situations, the teachers might break the kids off into a small group. Zoom allows small group structures to be created. So in some situations, you might see some of that. They might be facilitated by like a teaching assistant. And again, sometimes they'll be in a whole class discussion like how we currently are right now, okay? And what you should see too, as well, is like you should see an increase in communication from not only from the school, but then also from the teachers to you as parents, making sure that you sort of understand like what's happening and what's going on and what work is being done in the classroom, so that you can adequately and without significant stress be able to support the children. Health and wellness. I wanted to put this information out there because, you know, it's inevitable, I think, for students to struggle and for you as parents to sort of feel like, oh my God, where do I go? Who do I call? And sometimes looking at the LAUSD website can be a little challenging because there's a lot of information. So I wanted to put it out there, and that is the LAUSD hotline that you can call from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And somebody from the district who either speaks English or Spanish or different languages will be able to answer the phone and try to meet your emotional needs. They'll either refer you to counselors, or they'll provide you the support at that place. They can also refer you to somebody else. If it's something where you feel more comfortable sending an email, I've also attached that email in the ask shhs@lausd.net. At that email, you'll be able to get some additional information. All right. There is also a COVID-19, there is also a COVID-19 hotline. And on that COVID-19 hotline, and that's almost like a catch-all that the district's putting out there. So if you have some trouble with like health and wellness, or if you have some trouble with, you know, technology or something along those lines, then you can call the 213-443-1300, and they'll be able to provide you some assistance. Technical support. So given we're going to be using technology a lot, it's inevitable that we're going to run into some difficulties. And so here's the thing. The first line of defense is the district, because everything's running through them. They're the ones who are providing us additional equipment. They have probably the most technical expertise. However, there are, you know, 600-ish some odd students. So I'm going to provide you obviously with the website, the phone numbers that you can call to get support. Now, if you can't get support through them and it's taking too long, go ahead and call the school. And Cecilia or Terry or somebody who's on campus, they will try to provide you some support. If all else fails, then go ahead and send me an email, and then I will try to provide you some support. In some cases, what you need is resetting a password, because for some reason the password is not working and you aren't able to get in. Things like that, you know, either the school or myself will be able to support you, and we can get it done pretty quickly. If it's something that's much more technical, where the computer's just not working, it's not turning on, or a program is not working, ITD is probably the best place. If you want to try to solve it on your own, in many cases, if you just shut your computer down and you reboot it, that often fixes most problems. You'd be surprised. Sometimes it's a simple solution like that, where you just do a hard reset, let the computer reboot, and then sometimes things sort of just click back into place and start working. All right, I've talked a lot, and at this point, I wanted to pass the reins on over to Lowell. I'm gonna try to see if I can, there she is, and I'm gonna unmute her. Or Lowell, can you unmute yourself, please? There we go.
Hi. Hi everyone, I'm Lowell Gordon. My son Waylon is going to be in second grade already. And I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I am the president of the Parent Association. We are going to work very hard to maintain and continue as many wonderful traditions that we have in the school through our festivals and what else, and our fundraising. And then we're also going to work very hard to be the best liaison we can between the students, the teachers, and the parents. And let me grab this chat for you guys. I'm going to stick it in the chat. It will also be emailed out to everybody. It basically breaks down who we are, what we do, and how we do it. It also has contact information for everyone. Let me, oh goodness. Here we go. All right, so I'm gonna put this in the chat right now. Again, it will be emailed to everybody, and that's all I'm gonna say for now, because there's like a million questions about how school's gonna work. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Lowell. So it'll be Lowell and Suma. They're going to be the co-presidents, and I believe, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know we have new officers, and we will spend some time later on introducing you to them. In closing, you know, kind of how I started, or I ended the opening letter. In these times that are not normal, and that we face sort of some unprecedented sort of situations that we've had to find some really creative solutions. I think we're all gonna need a little bit of empathy. And when I say all, I mean myself, the school, the parents, the students. We're gonna have to be flexible, and we're gonna have to be willing to just try to problem solve and try to figure out how to make things work. I think it's impossible for us as a school to, like, you know, try to put together a system in a short amount of time that's gonna be perfect and meet everybody's needs. I think of it more as like sort of like we're going to engage in a process this year of trying to figure out how to meet each other's needs, but at the same time understanding that the only way that can be done is if we are willing to communicate with each other in a way that's respectful, right? So, you know, I think with our teachers, it'll be like, hey, so here's the situation, here's how I felt. I think a lot of statements around that area versus like, hey, you didn't do this, right? Because I think sometimes we want to say, hey, you should do this, you should do that. And I think in a time when there's so much going on for everybody, you know, I know for myself personally, I mean, it's been pretty stressful. Like, my wife and I are both administrators at schools, and we have our 2 kids, and we don't want to bring our parents into the fold because we're obviously going to work and coming home. And so there's a fear of like, hey, if my mom does, or my mom and dad provided some level of childcare, you know, we would obviously be opening up a possible situation where we might bring something home and she might get sick. And so we decided that we're going to try to sort of navigate this on our own. But what that means is, like, you know, I'm working mornings, she's working afternoons. We're asking our kids to sort of like manage themselves a little bit more. And so it's just, it's added a layer of like complexity to our lives, and, you know, it can be really stressful. And so I'm sure I'm not the only person. I know that there are a lot of you at home who are navigating something similar, where you got your children, you're not teachers, and now you're being asked to be helpful in this process. And so I know that that's going to be challenging. And we don't want you to feel like you have to do it on your own. We want to make sure that we are going to be here as much as possible to try to provide support to you and to your children. So we just need to all lean on each other and try to be supportive and understanding, so that we can get through these, you know, really difficult times. And I think if we do it right, I think what will end up happening is that our kids will be better off, just because they will have seen how we have taken a challenging situation and we have been communicating and working as a team in order to make things work. And I think that there's no greater lesson that we can teach our kids about how to be successful. Being successful is never something you do on your own. It's something that it's always done in collaboration with others, so that we can do some really meaningful things. So with that being said, I'm gonna ask Ray to now start shooting off the questions for me so that I can start answering them.
Right, you guys, hey, you guys. All right, so we have a quick question on daily schedules for classrooms. How will they find this out?
Okay, well, your teachers will share it with you, but I will give you a sneak peek. Now, I need us not to freak out, because when you see it, it's a little intimidating, only because it has a lot of information. So, and keep in mind that there is flexibility here, and so you may be the person who says, yeah, that seems like a lot. I don't know if I can handle that much. Although I seem to have lost the document. Give me 1 minute. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. It's just I had changed screens and all right. So what you're seeing on your screen right now is a schedule based on the contract. So for example, what you have here is Miss Diedrich, kindergarten, and you can start seeing the schedule here, like 9 to 9:45, a morning meeting. There's going to be some group work. You can see 3 different groups meeting at 3 different times. You'll see an additional class and then support for a small group. Ms. Trevino runs something fairly similar, and you see sort of that weekly assembly, whole group integrated time, and then groups 1, 2, and 3. You'll see the designated ELA or math times right here. And then you'll sort of see how like the schedule sort of ebbs and flows during the course of the week. And again, the teachers will go over this with you in a lot more detail. I just want to give you a sense of like, okay, this is kind of what we're looking at. I'm going to go ahead and skip over Ms. Sutherland because Ms. Sutherland is also a kindergarten class. This is one of our first grade classrooms, Ms. Bonilla's class. And then you'll see like 9:30 to 10 is ELA, some small group work, some art time, which I should chime in. Art is gonna, the way art is gonna look is we're still gonna try to incorporate, our art class with Miss Mauer. We're gonna music with Miss Tuthill, orchestra with Miss Burton, and then we're still trying to figure things out with Emily. She's been out of town, and so I've been trying to link up with her. So I will give you guys more information about that later, but you can see that it is something that we're looking to continue to incorporate, even though we're doing some distance learning. And then if you look at Miss Burt is 2nd grade. Yeah, let's look at Miss Burt and Miss Gallo have fairly similar schedules. You see, again, like a lot of group work, meeting with the class as a whole, and then just breaking things out. And again, when we looked at the survey, what we saw was that a lot of families said the whole group structure is really challenging because kids just get lost. They don't have a chance to really, contribute, and then it's like it's really easy for them to sort of just lose interest and just, zone out. So when we do smaller group structures of like 6-ish students, it creates a situation where it's really hard to hide. You kind of have to participate. Okay. And you kind of start seeing like 3rd grade looks fairly similar. And some of my other grades have not finished their schedules. So they should have them done by the time they do their orientations. Okay. So that's what some of the schedules are going to look like.
All right, so I just want to make sure that we are clear that for kindergarten, it runs a little differently. We have the kindergarteners, hopefully you've been reached out to by our magnet coordinator, or maybe some of our teachers, maybe you've been messaging, but they have orientation for 3 days, and by Friday, the teacher will reach out to the students and the parents on who their teacher will be for this coming year. For everybody else, we just recently have given them our parents, the parents' emails. So make sure your parent emails are correct in the main office. Please make sure you've given them the correct emails so the teachers can email you the time of their orientation. Okay. Next, the question. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just said thank you, Ray.
Okay. So that should, okay. So for anyone having IEPs or occupational therapy or speech, what is that going to look like for us this coming semester?
Yeah, so on Monday, on Friday last week, I met the APIS, I met our new school psychologist, and we're still trying to get some clarity from the district. I know that they are going to provide, for example, speech and some other services. RSP, obviously, Ms. Rios will be pushing in or asking the kids to come out and meet in her Zoom session instead of another session. But there are still some questions about what it's going to look like. And so the district is still trying to finalize that information. What we call our APEIS, which is our our administrator who oversees our special ed program. She attended a meeting last week on Wednesday and Thursday. Unfortunately, that meeting, the district still did not have all of the information that I would like to be able to discuss with you. I had originally asked the APIS to go ahead
Chung,
and
does-
I had originally asked the APIS. I had originally asked the APIS to provide me a list of the services and what they were going to look like. And then when I talked to her on Friday, she said that she still didn't have that information. So as soon as that information gets sent over to me, I will make sure to communicate that to you. But you should know that our preliminary conversation is that services would be offered. The only issue that we're having right now, and that we don't have a lot of clarity on, is assessments. So we have assessments that where people have been requesting them since last year. And the question is like, hey, are those assessments going to be able to move forward? We still don't have clarity on that. So we're waiting for the district to issue out some parameters around it. So as soon as I get that, I will make sure you guys get it.
All right, we had some parents concerned, not concerned, but a good thing. If what if plans changed and we're going to come back on campus? Do we have a plan for that?
So if we do come back on campus, the district, I don't know if you guys saw Superintendent Buettner's video today, but he was specifically talking about like some of the parameters around what that's going to look like. If we did come back to school, it would be sort of a hybrid model where we would have less children on campus. And obviously from there, they're setting the schools up so that we can start putting signs for maintaining social distance, to sending thermometers to take the temperature of students as they're walking onto the campus. They would obviously ask that we've already measured our classrooms to ensure that we can fit at least half of the students on campus, and then only one child per table, so that we could continue to respect the 6 feet distance between individuals. They would also create structures in the restrooms where they would only allow certain stalls to be used so that we can maintain that 6 feet. Only certain sinks would be able to get used. All drinking faucets would no longer be able to be used. So there is a plan that the district is piloting at some schools, and then we're going to be getting some additional information on. But at this point, it is something that the district is exploring, and they do have they are creating a plan that they're testing. And then if we do move into a hybrid model later in the year, we would have structures that they've already been tested at different school sites to ensure that they work at ours. Superintendent Buettner also mentioned that they were going to be looking significantly at data at other schools that are opening, and then trying to see what are some of those things that are working and not working, and then creating the protocols for the schools so that we can follow them accordingly.
All right. So parents in 5th grade are concerned that last year there was a large 4th grade class, and they requested to have 2 5th grade teachers this year. And they noticed that there's 2 4th grade teachers and there's only 1 5th grade teacher. So they just want some clarification.
I think if you look at our if you look at our 4th graders versus our 3rd graders, I think if I'm not mistaken, there are somewhere around 50 4th graders, but we only have 30 something 5th graders. And so the class with the largest number of students is the one we tend to break up, and the other class tends to go into a smaller class. We will be looking at like ways to provide some additional support. Part of my conversation last year with the parents was that we would provide a TA and potentially maybe even 2 TAs to provide some like additional support. So I'm going to honor that commitment and try to figure out ways of not only just saying, hey, Mr. Garcia, now that we're on Zoom, you get to, do your general sessions and then these small groups, which now you have to meet with all these different groups, and you probably will meet less with them because there's so many groups. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to see if we can't pair him up with a teaching assistant or other personnel to provide some additional support for the students so that everybody's needs are being addressed.
All right, next question is about after school support. Can Elysian Heights support after school, in-person, outdoor supplemental education?
Unfortunately, at this point, we haven't received the green light on anything of that nature. What the district has told us is that we're not allowed to have children on campus for extended periods of time. So that's where we are. If that changes, then we will see. I do know that the district is currently trying to work out a Beyond the Bell program where like they offer at least some childcare for some of our faculty, but I'm not too sure. I haven't read anything that says that they're going to provide that childcare for families. But if they do open that up, because we'll have some support on campus, then I will make sure to let you guys as parents know that a childcare option is available. But at this point, we're not allowed to have children on campus for an extended period of time.
All right, the next question was for students who took the OLSAT at the end of the year. What happened to those tests and test results? What's that gonna look like? I know the answer to this too, if you like.
Go for it, Mr. Minda.
Yeah, so so for this only affects some of the parents, but if your student took the test, the OLSAT test, which is our gifted students test, at the end of the year, they were administered to them. However, the district has not collected them. So they have not set a time when they're collecting them yet, as of yet, because some schools didn't get to finish. So they may open up another window for when we're gonna administer the test, and then a day that they're gonna collect the test. So we are still waiting for that day. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, as soon as we get the information on those assessments, we will make sure to forward it to the parents. I know it's what's happened right now. The district is a lot of people have been reassigned to do different things, and so I think that what's happened with this OLSAT is that it's been pushed aside as other things have had to get taken care of. But I know that the district will be addressing that very shortly. And I'm going to also email our community of schools administrators so that we can do a follow-up on that.
Just a quick clarification. If they have finished the entire OLSAT test, no, they do not have to re-administer it again. They don't have to be redone. But those who have not finished it will have to finish it. But I know for sure, because I just talked to Ms. Albert about it earlier, that all of our students finished it, but the district did not collect it. So they're kept here in our school in a locked cabinet right now. Okay, next question. Will there be one-on-one sessions with teachers and students?
If the teacher can figure out a time to make that work, there might be some opportunities, but that's going to really depend on the teacher and the parent and some sort of creative scheduling. So I don't want to say yes or I don't want to say no, because that's really going to depend.
Yeah, I want to clarify that if there's ever a teacher to student meeting, the parent does have to be there and another adult has to be there. So there won't be a time when it's just the student and the teacher.
Thank you. Good point. I didn't think about that from that perspective. But yes, whenever a teacher's on their own with a child, there does need to be somebody else present to provide basically another perspective as to whatever took place.
Okay. Another question: are the children allowed to come with the parents during pickup days?
Yes, we are going to allow the children to come to the school and pick up their materials. And part of the reason is because a lot of the teachers want to see their children. So I think with the exception of 4th and 5th grade, kindergarten through third grade, the teachers will more likely than not actually be in the auditorium, and they'll be saying hi to the children so that they can at least meet them face-to-face at some point. Just remember to wear, everybody must wear a mask and gloves, please.
And socially distance.
And socially distance.
For technology, is it a choice between tablet or Chromebook for all grades, or is it assigned?
I think more likely than not, you will be assigned an iPad. These are new iPads, not the iPads from last year that may or may not have worked. At this point, we have received new ones that we can issue out. So more likely than not, some of you might get a Chromebook, but the odds are far greater that you will get an iPad. that's new and that works.
And there was a follow-up question about needing to scan in student work. I'd like to answer this one. Teachers would, at most, would want like maybe a picture of their work. As far as scanning goes, probably not necessary. Next one. When do we get our LUSD email addresses? My kid is in kindergarten. Okay. So for, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Ray.
So for kindergarten, there won't be a lot of email usage. Most of the emailing will be through, not emailing, most of the messaging will be through Schoology or through Seesaw, which is another platform that the teachers will have access to. Another thing for, as far as like logging into Schoology, there's something called a QR code, which is basically a square code that the students will be, oh, here's an example. So the kids will, by the way, that was Ms. Trevino. She's one of our kinder teachers. Basically, you'll just hold this up to the camera or the tablet of the camera, the camera of the tablet, and it'll sign you into Schoology automatically. So we'll be providing this especially for our kindergarteners through 2nd grade. For 3rd through 5th grade, they will be provided with their email addresses and passwords, all that stuff with their teacher. Okay. Next one, will parents? Yes, so this will all be in, most of it will be in Zoom as far as the synchronous teaching. The asynchronous work, that means work that's usually done independently, will be done through different platforms. Will Class Dojo be used again? Depending on the teacher, it is one of the platforms they are that they can use. Okay, what about not having a printer? So in most cases, teachers are actually, in all cases, we're not expecting students to print out anything. There may be times when they would write just on a piece of paper and so on, and would just take a picture. But as far as writing, everything will be online.
But we are also providing every student with journals, so they'll have paper so that they can write on. And as Ray said, you know, you won't need to print anything because you'll just end up taking a picture. So even if the teacher assigns you some problems or some questions, you can obviously just write your answers on a separate sheet of paper, title it, and then take a picture of it and then submit it. You won't need to actually print any of those things out.
Mm-hmm. Next one is, will the QR codes come in the materials bag? At this point, it is not going to come in the materials bag. We're still waiting for some of our we have about like 8 students who still don't have a QR code. So we may not have time to give it to that, but we'll find a way to get it to you. And if it's not physically, we can email it to you as well, okay? But right now we are waiting for a few that do not have QR codes. So please be on the lookout for that.
And Ray, the QR code is only for K2, right?
K through 2nd grade, yes. Will internet be provided? You want to talk about internet?
Yeah, so if you do need internet, I actually do need you to send me an email and just say, we need a hotspot. And if you do that, I can submit, I can submit the request. In order for me to submit the request, I actually need to provide the student's name and their address and also their information. So the only way I can order those is if you let me know that you need it. So if you don't have strong Wi-Fi at your house, or your child is dependent on like your phone as a hotspot or something along those lines, please just email me as soon as possible, and then I will submit that to the district. And then from what I understand, the local district has them, and we just need to go and pick them up, and then we should have a pretty quick turnaround in terms of getting those out to you.
So once again, email you, correct?
Yes, just email me, just say I need a hotspot, and then I'll pull up your child's information and then put it into the form.
Okay. And can you just go ahead and type in the chat, your email?
Oh, sure.
And while that's happening, the next question is, will there be any artwork or hands-on projects?
There will be artwork being done. As I mentioned earlier, we have Miss Maurer who's still working with the school, and so she will be doing less obviously clay work, and instead she will be doing more sort of like just traditional art that Ms. Hernandez used to do. Ms. Hernandez will be focusing a little bit more on on the students in special ed, so that she can provide them support because she's technically a special ed teaching assistant. So she'll be focused more on those students. But Miss Maurer will still continue to do the artwork with the kids. And I know that she at some point doesn't want to even continue to do clay. So I should mention, actually, I had to mention this earlier, is that we will have additional materials pickups during the course of the year. So just because you pick up a few, you know, as I mentioned during that piece, it's a starter kit. It's just something to kind of get your kids going. But later on, maybe in like 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, we will probably let families know that we're going to hold additional materials pickup so that you can get additional textbooks, or for example, like Miss Maurer might be sending home some clay for your kids to work with on their new project. So we'll have some additional ones. Additionally, instruments need to be reissued out to the students, but we're still trying to figure that piece out. So there will just be additional opportunities for you to come on campus, pick up materials, and then continue with the arts at home.
All right. Next question. Where are we sending assignments to?
Typically on Schoology, it's great because the kids can just upload it straight onto Schoology. And it also depends on how the teacher structures it. Like there could be conversations that are structured within Schoology, but it's really just a matter of like you take a picture, you upload it, and then you upload it onto Schoology, and then the teacher has access to it, and then they can put it in the appropriate folders. And your teachers will really walk you through that process. As I mentioned earlier, the first couple of weeks where they're focused on social emotional, the idea is that they integrate a lot of activities using Schoology as they're doing the social emotional work. So anticipate that you'll have a lot of opportunities to sort of play around with that in a sort of non-stressful way. Like, oh my God, I didn't turn in an assignment that was super important. It's going to be my kid's grade. It'll just, you know, it'll be sort of, hey, we didn't upload it. It was just some of the social emotional work, but now we know that we don't know how to do it, and we can ask some questions so that when kids have to submit work that's going to count towards their grades, they can do it effectively.
Yeah, and other platforms include Seesaw, which is a little bit more kid-friendly. And there's also just straight up emailing as well. Next question, when will we know the daily schedule, start and end times? Because we need to arrange for childcare now. And second, when will we know the specific Zoom time requirements from our teacher so we can plan?
So during those orientations that I mentioned earlier is when you'll get all that information in a very concrete way. So anticipate, for those of you who are going to kinder, you'll be getting some of that information over the next 3 days. For those of you who are in the grades 1 through 5, you should be getting that information starting on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah, so the teachers just got the emails from the parents, not from the parents, but to who they need to send it to today. So they will be formulating the the meeting times and orientations and the Zoom and all that stuff. And you'll be getting an email sometime tomorrow, probably, before orientation. And that's when you get the final schedule and so on. Next question is, do iPad and Chromebook devices have parental controls built in? The answer is yes. There is a lot of parental controls in any of the LAUSD devices. Is the entire 5th grade class going to be on Zoom all at once, or will they be splitting the kids up into smaller groups?
No, they'll be splitting the students up into smaller groups. Pretty much all of our classes will be spending some time together as a whole class, but then a lot of time in like smaller group structures. So pretty much everybody, if you notice in the schedule, you saw a lot of opportunities for small group structures. And again, when we looked at the data from the survey, thank you again for all of you guys who took the time to fill that out. We really appreciate it because it's really useful for us to get a sense of like, you know, what our parents, you know, what parents from their perspective were able to see that actually works and doesn't work. And then, and now the teachers are sort of making sure that we're providing a lot of that small group work because we do see that that's probably the most effective way of doing it. So anticipate that you'll have some sort of like large session where kids can kind of get some general sense of like the work that's going to be done. And then the teacher scheduling other students in for small group conversations with them via Zoom.
Question, will kids be able to check out books from the library?
Uh, at this point, I mean, we don't have a structure for that. I need to talk to Becky to see if there's a way of like, I think that challenge is right there is that, the kids would obviously have to come to school, or we would have to be able to provide some kind of way of like, of having parents go online to pick the books and then create like a pickup structure. At this point, we don't have something. So I'm gonna say we don't have a structure in place for that. I can look into it and then
And not only that, I think there's a sanitation issue in sharing books and so on. So we don't have any directives yet, but we'll let you know. Mr. Garza will check it out.
yeah, I'll look into it. But at this point, we don't have a system for that.
Okay. Another question, will kids need to attend Monday through Friday? Can days be skipped?
So there is, like I said earlier, like we're telling people we're going to try to be flexible. So as long as you're letting us know like what's going on, and you're able to sort of make sure that your kid's doing his work, and they're staying on top of things, then we should be able to figure out a way to maybe to count the attendance and make everything sort of work itself out. But if you're, for example, if you're missing classes, you're not doing the work, anticipate that we'll probably be reaching out to you and saying like, hey, what's going on, or how can we help you, or how can we differentiate the work that we're doing? Because at the end of the day, what we're looking for is for kids to be engaged. Are we looking for kids to be online every single day, every single minute the teacher is? Not necessarily, but we definitely want to make sure that the child's still engaged in the learning process, still participating as a part of the class. And so what that means is like, it could mean that he's participating on a Zoom session, but it could also mean that he's participating in a discussion that's taking place on Schoology, for example, or he's submitting his projects on Schoology. And so that could be a way of also saying like, hey, my student is still participating, and he should be counted as being present in the learning process.
Another one is, I think we've answered this one before, was first grade orientation. Once again, teachers will be emailing you if they're in your class about all the information regarding the class orientation. So just hang tight, it'll get out there. Next question, do kindergartners play instruments?
No. Well, they in Miss Tudhill's music class, they do play some. I think at some point they get to play a recorder, but I haven't talked to Miss Tudhill about if that's going to actually work out. I'll do some follow up about that. As far as orchestra class is concerned, orchestra doesn't start until 3rd grade. So it's basically 3rd grade and up that has access to orchestra. Miss Tudhill, she does more of like rhythm and tone and just general music and reading notes and things of that nature. She does more of like a general music class. As I said, like in the past, she's had the students learn to play a recorder, but I'm not too sure if she's going to continue that or. So I will let you know. I'm going to take a note. I want to take a note down about that.
Okay. Will there be another time slot for the 5th grade meeting?
I don't understand that question.
I guess they won't be able to make the orientation, class orientation. I would say to reach out to.
Yeah, I would just say reach out to Mr. Garcia, let him know, hey, Mr. Garcia, I can't attend this meeting. Is there a way that we can touch base later on? And then I'm sure that he will try to figure something out.
Yeah. And maybe this can relate to Leslie's question. Will parent orientations with teachers be recorded? That can be something that you can request, especially if you can't make it to the meeting. What about kids who need free lunch? How will they have access? You know anything about food stuff?
Okay, so food, the district is going to continue with its food stations. So what I've understood is that the district is not going to open up, for example, like every single school so that parents go, like, so for example, everybody goes to Elysian Heights to pick up their lunch. What is going to happen is that the district is going to maintain those specific sites that are like essentially like hubs that would support people within a general area. and our parents would still be able to go to those sites and still pick up meals for their children. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, the district was potentially looking at, I think it's basically, I've heard some rumblings that they wanted to make sure only students were getting meals, but I know that the district was trying to figure out a way to basically have a don't ask, don't tell kind of structure, so that you can come and get like 5 meals basically, and nobody would say anything about it. I will make a note of that just to see how that's going to look. I know that they're going to still maintain the sites that they've had open since they opened up those grab and go lunch areas. I just don't know if they're going to continue to allow parents to receive meals, or if they're going to just limit it to children. So I'll find that out, and then I'll shoot an email out to everybody about it.
A question about will it be clear which assignments count for grades? If one of these are missed, can we arrange with teachers to make these up?
Yes, definitely. There's, like I said, we're going to try to be flexible. So if something happens, oh my God, we didn't get 2 uploaded. The camera and something got messed up, or we lost it. We'll work with you. Don't let those things stress you out. Know that we are here to support you and your children. And we know that things are going to be a little tricky. And so we are always going to be looking at ways to, hey, if you didn't finish it, if you need some additional support, we'll support you. If you need some tech support, we'll support you there. If you need a couple more days to finish it, that's okay. We'll work with you. Everything within reason, obviously. And, if you call and say like, oh my God, he was supposed to turn something in 2 months ago. Can we turn it in now? The teacher might be like, what do you mean? I've sent you multiple emails. This should have been done a little while ago. So let's just make sure that we're all within reason, trying to be understanding of each other. We don't also want to create situations where teachers were like, it's the last week of school and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to make up my 30 assignments that I haven't turned in for the entire semester. Everything's within reason, and we don't want to stress anybody out, right? I don't want the parent to be stressed out or the child, but I also don't want the teacher to be stressed out because now like they're taking on a bunch of extra work that they have to go back to and try to regrade and stuff. So, let's just make sure that we're all sort of being reasonable, and I think we can make it work.
And it looks like we're good to go. Any last questions? If you guys want to type it in real quick.
I want to say thank you to Maggie, the ASL interpreter. I don't know if you guys know this, but we actually have a student whose parents only speak in sign language. And so that'll become a consistent component of the work we do at our support that we offer at our school to ensure that all of our families understand and can hear and get all the information needed. So thank you, Maggie, for being here with us during this meeting.
I want to be real clear with you guys when the first day of school is. I think I've been getting some questions about that. So I don't know if Mr. Garza, you talked about 18th and 19th. Did you talk about that?
We did. We talked about the 18th and 19th. Those are sort of days where the district is putting out a lesson. And I mentioned that we would be putting that information out as soon as we get it, but the district is still from the Department of Instruction. They're finalizing those lessons, those videos. And they're really just videos about how to be successful in a distance learning program. And so they'll talk a little bit about the platforms, talk a little bit about Zooming and how to engage. So that's what those lessons are going to be about. We're hoping, we had a meeting today at 11:30, and our district was kind of going over some of that, and they told us that the lessons were supposed to be out shortly by the end of this week. So as soon as we get those, we're going to send you guys links and information so that you guys can access that on the 18th and 19th. But it should only be no more than I think it's like 30 minutes to an hour. And then the first day that you'll actually meet the teacher and have like the full teacher-student experience in terms of a distance learning formal schedule, that will take place on Thursday, August 20th, and it'll start at 9 o'clock.
And from what I heard, the district may just email you directly. the links that you need to watch for family orientation is what it's called. And that's when they're going to go over Schoology and go over how to make an account and other important things for social distance learning. Any final questions?
And if you talk to any of your friends who say, oh my God, I missed it. A, we recorded it, and B, we're gonna have another live session at 5:30. So we're gonna do this one over again just to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our families. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for participating. Like I told my teachers, it should be a fun and exciting year that presents many challenges for all of us. But I am confident that if we take that problem-solving disposition and that we lead with empathy, that we should have a great year. And even if it's different, it should still be a really amazing learning experience for all of us. And I think there are some real valuable lessons that we can learn, both in terms of how to work with each other, but then also in terms of technology. I think it's really sort of pushed us to be more creative and figure out ways to do things in different ways. And so I think we will all walk away from this process being better off because we will have learned so many new things about technology that we hadn't been forced to learn about. So with that being said, thank you for joining us. We're excited to have some of our new families join the Elysian Kids family. And hopefully we will see you guys at the materials pickup that start, I guess, for kindergarten on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then for the rest of our folks on Thursday, Friday, and Monday. Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Take over.